There's a power shift that doesn't come with applause. No title change, no income milestone post, no visible upgrade. It happens quietly. The day your money stops needing you, when your investments outpace your salary, or when your portfolio becomes large enough that your lifestyle no longer depends on your employer, something changes. But you don't celebrate it. You don't announce it. You don't even fully articulate it. Because this kind of power isn't meant to be displayed, it's meant to be carried. For years, your leverage lived outside of you, in your boss's approval, in your company's stability, in your paycheck clearing every 2 weeks. Now, your leverage lives in assets. Assets don't fire you. Assets don't gossip. Assets don't negotiate ego. They compound. And when leverage moves from people to math, everything shifts. Not just at work, not just in your career, in your marriage, in your friendships, in your family, in how you decide where to live, what to tolerate, and who gets access to your time. But here's the rule nobody teaches. Tell no one. Because the moment you reveal you don't need the system starts adjusting to you. And that applies to every system in your life, professional, social, and personal. The workplace shift has been covered. What hasn't been covered is what happens at home, at dinner, in the conversations nobody hears. That's where the quiet power shift gets complicated. The first place the shift lands isn't the office, it's the kitchen table. When one partner reaches financial independence and the other hasn't fully processed what that means, the dynamic changes in ways neither expected. Money in most relationships isn't just currency, it's negotiation infrastructure. Who earns more often influences who decides more. Who carries the financial burden often carries the emotional authority. Who feels responsible for income often feels entitled to certain choices. When investments quietly surpass salary, that infrastructure shifts. The partner who reached independence may feel calmer, less reactive, more willing to take risks. The other partner may sense the change without understanding it, and what they sense can feel like detachment. You seem different. You don't worry about things the way you used to. It feels like you don't care as much. None of those are accurate, but they're real. Because financial independence changes your nervous system, and your partner lives with your nervous system every day. The conversations that used to carry weight, should we take that vacation? Can we afford the renovation? What if you lose your job? Suddenly feel different. One person is still calculating from scarcity, the other is calculating from structure, and that mismatch creates friction that has nothing to do with the numbers. The healthiest couples navigate this by making the structure shared, not just the accounts. The awareness, both partners understanding the optionality number, both seeing the margin, both feeling the floor, because invisible power that only one person carries becomes invisible distance, and distance in a marriage compounds faster than interest. Friendships built during the climb don't always survive the plateau. When you were striving, your social circle was built around shared ambition. Same career pressure, same financial stress, same complaints about work, same dreams about someday. That shared struggle was the glue. But when your someday quietly arrives and theirs hasn't, the glue weakens. Not dramatically, subtly. You stop complaining about work because work is optional. You stop stressing about money because the structure handles it. You stop chasing the same things because your goals changed. And your friends notice. Not what changed, just that something did. You suggest a trip and they hesitate because of budget. You mention leaving a job and they think you're reckless. You seem less anxious and they interpret it as disconnection.
The hardest part isn't the distance, it's the discovery. You begin to see which friendships were built on shared values and which were built on shared circumstances. Circumstance-based friendships feel identical to value-based ones while the circumstances match. The moment they diverge, the difference becomes painfully clear. Some friends lean in. They're curious, supportive, genuinely happy for the shift, even if they don't fully understand it. Those friendships deepen. Others pull away, not out of malice, out of discomfort. Your calm makes their anxiety more visible. Your optionality highlights their dependency. And proximity to someone who solved a problem you're still carrying can feel like pressure disguised as friendship. The social circle often gets smaller after the quiet power shift, but what remains is more honest. And honest, after years of performance, feels like relief. But the most complicated relationship change isn't friends or spouse, it's family. Family dynamics around money are the most loaded and the least discussed. When your financial structure changes, family expectations change with it, sometimes overtly, sometimes through silence. Parents who struggled financially may react to your independence with pride mixed with discomfort. Your success can feel like a mirror reflecting what they couldn't build. Some parents celebrate quietly, others start expecting support they never asked for before, not because they're greedy, but because the dynamic shifted and nobody established new rules. Siblings can be more complicated. If you're the first in your family to reach financial independence, the gap creates unspoken tension. Holiday conversations feel different. Lifestyle differences become visible. Money requests, direct or implied, start appearing. And here's where the quiet power shift demands something most people aren't prepared for: boundaries. Not cold boundaries, structural ones. Clear conversations about what you're willing to help with and what you're not. Transparent communication about why your lifestyle hasn't inflated even though your assets have. And the hardest one, the willingness to disappoint people you love in order to protect the structure that gives you freedom. Because family pressure is the #1 reason people who reach financial independence lose it. Not market crashes, not bad investments, the emotional inability to say no to people whose approval they've been seeking their entire lives. The quiet power shift isn't just financial, it's relational. And the relational cost is what determines whether independence lasts or collapses. The people who navigate this well share one trait. The people who sustain the quiet power shift long-term share one discipline. They look normal. Not because they're hiding, because they're protecting structure. Let me show you what this looks like. Someone's portfolio generates $160,000 a year. Their salary is $135,000. Combined, they could live at $295,000 annually. Instead, they live at $95,000. Same car they've driven for 6 years, same neighborhood, same vacations, same restaurants. Their coworkers assume they're comfortable but careful. Their neighbors assume they're doing fine. Their family assumes they're responsible. Nobody guesses the truth. They could stop working tomorrow and nothing would change. That invisibility is intentional, because visible independence creates pressure from every direction. Employers question commitment, friends project expectations, family recalibrates what they ask for, and lifestyle inflation, once started, consumes margin faster than income replaces it. The discipline of looking normal means resisting the upgrade that signals the shift. It means driving past the dealership. It means staying in the house that's paid off. It means saying we're doing okay when the truth is we're free. And it means tolerating a specific kind of loneliness, the loneliness of carrying a secret that would change how everyone treats you if they knew. But that loneliness is the price of protection, and protection is what keeps the machine running. Because the machine, left undisturbed, does something remarkable. Here's where the quiet power shift becomes genuinely transformative. If your investments generate $160,000 and your life costs $95,000, you have $65,000 in annual excess from assets alone. Add a salary of $135,000 that you're investing entirely, and the portfolio grows by roughly $200,000 per year before market returns. At 8%, a $2 million portfolio becomes $2.8 million in 3 years with those contributions. Within 5 years, it approaches $3.5 million, generating close to $280,000 annually. The gap between what your life costs and what your assets produce doesn't just grow, it accelerates. And acceleration changes the nature of every decision. Career changes become experiments instead of risks. A bad quarter at work is noise, not threat.
A surprise expense is inconvenience, not crisis. A family member needs help. You can assist without threatening your structure. And here's the feedback loop. When you stop making decisions from fear, you make better decisions. Better decisions create better outcomes. Better outcomes widen margin. Wider margin increases calm, and calm produces even better decisions. Most professionals optimize for next year's bonus. People operating from invisible power optimize for next decade's alignment. The difference isn't intelligence, it's insulation, and insulation changes time preference entirely. When you don't need immediate validation, you think further ahead. Longer horizons create calmer decisions. Calmer decisions reduce mistakes, and reduced mistakes accelerate compounding. Invisible power doesn't just preserve leverage, it multiplies it, quietly, structurally, and irreversibly. But sustaining it requires knowing one number. Every relationship pressure, every lifestyle temptation, every family request comes down to one number, the gap. The gap between what your assets produce and what your life costs. That gap is your freedom margin, and freedom margin is the single most important number in your financial life after independence. Let's make it concrete. Portfolio generates $160,000. Life costs $95,000. Gap, $65,000. That gap is insulation against everything: market drops, family pressure, lifestyle drift, unexpected expenses, career pivots. Now watch what happens when the gap shrinks. A nicer house adds $18,000 per year. A car upgrade adds $8,000. A family loan of $30,000 reduces invested assets. 2 vacations instead of 1 adds $6,000. Within a year, expenses rose to $127,000 and the portfolio shrank slightly. Gap, $33,000. Still positive, still technically independent, but the insulation halved. One bad market year and the gap disappears entirely. Every decision after the quiet power shift should be filtered through one question: does this protect the gap or consume it? That question applies to the car, the house, the gift to family, the lifestyle upgrade, the career risk. Everything passes through the gap. The people who sustain invisible power for decades aren't the most disciplined people alive. They're the ones who made the gap sacred. They'd rather look ordinary for 20 years than look impressive for 5 and lose everything. Because the gap isn't just money, it's the distance between freedom and dependency. And that distance, once collapsed, takes years to rebuild. And protecting the gap changes how you make every decision in your life. Here's a practical framework for navigating the quiet power shift without losing it. Every significant decision after financial independence gets filtered through 3 questions, not complicated, not time-consuming, but consistently applied. Question 1. Does this expand my fixed costs? If yes, calculate exactly how much it reduces the gap annually. A $400 monthly increase in fixed costs is $4,800 per year permanently. Over 20 years at 8% opportunity cost, that's roughly $240,000 in lost compounding. Make the decision knowing the real price, not the monthly payment.
Question 2. Am I doing this for me or for how it looks? This is the lifestyle inflation filter. The car upgrade, the kitchen renovation, the neighborhood change. If the primary driver is signal rather than function, the decision is consuming freedom to purchase appearance, and appearance has 0 compound interest. Question 3. If this decision went wrong, would my structure survive? This is the stress test: the family loan, the career pivot, the investment risk. If the answer is yes, the gap absorbs it, proceed. If the answer is it would eliminate the gap, pause. Not forever, just long enough to find a version of the decision that preserves the margin. 3 questions, applied before every major financial decision. Written down, not just thought through, because writing forces honesty that thinking allows you to skip. The people who lose the quiet power shift don't lose it in one dramatic moment. They lose it in 30 small decisions that each seemed reasonable. The framework doesn't prevent generosity or enjoyment. It prevents drift. And drift is the only real enemy after independence. Let me show you what daily life feels like when you're carrying invisible power and nobody knows. It's Thanksgiving. Your brother mentions he's stressed about a car repair. The old version of you would have felt the shared anxiety, maybe offered advice, maybe felt guilty for not helping. The current version quietly writes a check. Not because you're generous, because the structure absorbs it without shaking. Your brother doesn't know why it was easy for you. He just knows it happened, and you don't explain. It's a Tuesday evening. Your spouse suggests looking at bigger houses. The old version of you would have started calculating, stressing, projecting. The current version says, let's talk about what we'd gain and what we'd lose. Not from scarcity, from awareness. You know exactly what a bigger house costs in gap reduction, and you can have that conversation calmly because the math is clear. It's a work meeting. A reorganization is announced. Half the room tenses. The old version of you would have felt the same spike. The current version listens, evaluates whether the new structure aligns, and decides from clarity. If it doesn't align, you have options. Real ones, not theoretical. It's a Saturday morning. Nothing is planned, and for the first time in years, nothing needs to be. The bills are covered by structure. The future is protected by margin. The present is yours. Nobody sees any of this. Nobody congratulates the calm at Thanksgiving. Nobody notices the conversation about houses that didn't become an argument. Nobody applauds the meeting where you didn't panic. But you feel it in every interaction, every decision, every breath that comes easier than it used to. That's the quiet power shift. Not loud, not visible, but permanent. Here's the rule that protects everything you've built. Tell no one. Not because secrecy is necessary, because asymmetry is valuable. You don't need people adjusting their behavior toward your independence. You don't need your employer recalibrating. You don't need friends projecting. You don't need family recalculating what they can ask for. Independence is strongest when it's unannounced, when it lives in structure instead of conversation, when it shapes your behavior without shaping others' expectations. The most dangerous person in any room is the one who doesn't need the outcome and doesn't advertise it. That applies to the boardroom, the dinner table, the family gathering, and the marriage. Your survival no longer belongs to the system. The system simply rents your time, and you set the price. That's the quiet power shift. Not wealth, not status, not dominance. Choice.
The ability to choose projects, environments, relationships, and pace. Not from desperation, from structure. Not from ego, from math. And the strongest form of choice is the one nobody sees. If this changed how you think about power, subscribe. Not for motivation, for structure. Because in the next video, we break down exactly how invisible power changes the way you raise children, the conversations you have about money with your kids, and why the next generation either inherits your freedom or inherits your fear. Because the quiet power shift doesn't end with you, it echoes. And how it echoes depends on whether you protect it or perform it. Tell no one, build in silence, and let the math speak for itself.